Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The drive to her parents' house felt both interminable and far too short. Before she knew it, she was pulling into the driveway, her heart pounding in her chest. She could see her family through the living room window, gathered around the coffee table, laughing and chatting. Taking a deep breath, Mila stepped out of the car. The click of her modest heels on the pavement seemed deafening in the quiet suburban street. She smoothed down her dress, checked her reflection one last time in the car window, and made her way to the front door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the doorbell. This was it. No turning back now. She pressed the button, hearing the familiar chime echo through the house. There was a moment of silence, then the sound of footsteps approaching. The door swung open, revealing her mother's smiling face. The smile froze, then slowly faded as she took in Mila's appearance. "Milo," she said uncertainly. Is that you?" Mila nodded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Hi, Mom. Can I come in? There's something I need to talk to you all about." Her mother stepped back wordlessly, allowing Mila to enter. As she stepped into the living room, conversation died. All eyes turned to her, expressions ranging from shock to confusion to concern. Her father was the first to speak.
"Son, what's going on?"
Mila took a deep breath. This was the moment she'd been preparing for. "Mom, Dad, everyone, I have something important to tell you. I'm a crossdresser. This," she gestured to her outfit, "is who I really am. My name is Mila when I'm dressed like this, and
I hope you can accept me."
The silence that followed was deafening. Mila could hear her own heart pounding in her ears. She looked from face to face, trying to gauge their reactions. Her mother was the first to move. She stepped forward, her eyes shining with unshed tears. For a moment, Mila feared the worst. But then her mother pulled her into a tight hug. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered. "I had no idea you were carrying this weight. I'm so sorry you felt you couldn't tell us sooner." Mila felt tears spilling down her cheeks, smearing her carefully applied makeup. She didn't care. All that mattered was the warmth of her mother's embrace, the acceptance in her voice. Her father approached next, his face a mix of emotions. I don't understand," he said hesitantly. "But I love you. You're my child no matter what. We'll figure this out together." One by one, the rest of the family came forward. There were hugs, tears, and countless questions. It wasn't perfect. There was confusion, some discomfort, a few awkward moments, but underneath it all was love and a willingness to understand. As the initial shock wore off, the conversation began to flow more naturally. Mila found herself explaining her journey, from her earliest memories of wanting to wear dresses to her recent adventures with Barbara. "Barbara?" her aunt interrupted. "Is she your partner?" Mila laughed, shaking her head. No, she's just a very good friend. She's been incredibly supportive through all of this." As the evening wore on, Mila felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. There was still a long road ahead. Acceptance was just the first step. But for the first time, she felt like she could truly be herself with her family. When she finally left hours later, her mother pulled her aside at the door. "Mila," she said, testing out the name, "I want you to know how proud I am of you. It takes incredible courage to be true to yourself like this. And I want you to invite Barbara over for dinner soon. I'd like to thank her for being there for you." Mila felt a fresh wave of tears threatening. She hugged her mother tightly. "Thank you, Mom, for everything." As she drove home, Mila felt like she was floating on air. The night had gone better than she could have ever hoped. She couldn't wait to tell Barbara. The next morning, as they met for their usual run, Mila recounted every detail of the evening to Barbara. Her friend listened with rapt attention, her face beaming with pride. "I'm so happy for you, honey," Barbara said, pulling Mila into a hug. "You were so brave. And now you can truly be yourself." As they set off on their run, Mila felt a sense of peace she'd never experienced before. For the first time in her life, all the pieces of her identity fit together perfectly. She was Milo and Mila, he and she was finally, truly happy. Over the next few months, Mila's life underwent a dramatic transformation. With her family's support, she felt emboldened to live more openly as Mila. She started incorporating more feminine elements into her everyday wardrobe, even at work. To her surprise and relief, her co-workers were largely supportive, or at the very least, indifferent. Her blog continued to grow, attracting a dedicated following of fellow crossdressers and allies. Mila found herself becoming something of a mentor figure, offering advice and support to others who were just beginning their journeys. One evening, as she was updating her blog, Mila received an unexpected email. It was from a local support group inviting her to speak at their next meeting. They had come across her blog and were impressed by her story and her eloquence in discussing cross-dressing and gender identity. Mila's first instinct was to decline. Public speaking had never been her forte, and the thought of standing in front of a group of strangers talking about such personal matters was terrifying. But as she read through the email again, she found herself reconsidering. She thought about how lost and alone she had felt before meeting Barbara, how much it would have meant to her to have someone to look up to, someone who understood what she was going through. Maybe this was her chance to be that person for someone else. With shaking hands, she typed out a reply, accepting the invitation. As soon as she hit send, she grabbed her phone to call Barbara. "I did something crazy," she blurted out as soon as Barbara answered. Barbara chuckled. "Honey, with you, that could mean anything from buying a new shade of lipstick to skydiving in heels. What's up?" Mila explained about the email and her decision to speak at the meeting. To her surprise, Barbara let out an excited squeal. "Oh, Mila, that's wonderful!" she exclaimed. "I'm so proud of you. You're going to be amazing." Despite Barbara's enthusiasm, Mila felt her doubts creeping in. "But what if I mess up? What if they don't like me? What if—" "Stop right there," Barbara interrupted firmly. "You are going to be fantastic. Your story is powerful, and you have so much wisdom to share. And if you're really worried, we can practice. I'll be your audience." And so, over the next few weeks, Mila threw herself into preparing for the speech. She wrote and rewrote her talking points, practiced in front of her mirror, and did several dry runs with Barbara as her audience. The night of the meeting arrived all too quickly. Mila stood in front of her mirror, smoothing down her favorite blue dress, the one she'd worn for the marathon. It felt right, somehow, to wear it for this new milestone. Barbara had insisted on driving her to the meeting, providing moral support right up to the last minute. As they pulled up to the community center where the meeting was being held, Mila felt her nerves threatening to overwhelm her. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered, her hands shaking as she clutched her note cards. Barbara reached over, taking Mila's hands in her own. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "You can do this. You are strong, you are brave, and you have an important story to tell. Those people in there need to hear what you have to say. And I'll be right there in the audience, cheering you on." Mila took a deep breath, letting Barbara's words wash over her. She nodded, squeezing her friend's hands. "Okay, let's do this." As they entered the meeting room, Mila was surprised by how many people were there. The chairs were arranged in a semicircle, facing a small podium at the front of the room. The facilitator, a friendly-looking woman in her 50s, approached them with a warm smile. "You must be Mila," she said, extending her hand. "We're so glad you could join us tonight. Are you ready?" Mila nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Barbara gave her a reassuring pat on the back before finding a seat in the audience. As Mila made her way to the podium, she could feel every eye in the room on her. She took a deep breath, laying her note cards on the podium in front of her. She looked out at the sea of faces, some curious, some encouraging, all attentive. Her gaze found Barbara, who gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up. Mila felt a small smile tugging at her lips. She could do this. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice surprisingly steady. "My name is Mila, and I'm a crossdresser." As she spoke, sharing her story and her experiences, Mila felt her nervousness melting away. The words flowed easily, and she found herself deviating from her prepared speech, speaking from the heart. She talked about her journey of self-discovery, the fear and shame she'd felt for so long, and the joy and freedom she'd found in embracing her true self. She spoke about the importance of support, both from loved ones and from the community. As she concluded her speech, Mila looked out at the audience. To her amazement, she saw several people wiping away tears. Others were nodding emphatically, clearly relating to her words. "Thank you for listening," she said softly. "And remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you are valid, you are worthy, and you are not alone." The applause that followed was thunderous. As Mila stepped away from the podium, she felt lightheaded with relief and exhilaration. She'd done it. Barbara was the first to reach her, enveloping her in a tight hug. "You were amazing," she whispered fiercely. "I'm so proud of you." As the formal part of the meeting concluded, Mila found herself surrounded by people wanting to talk to her. Some shared their own stories, others asked for advice, and many simply wanted to thank her for her courage in speaking out. One young person, barely out of their teens, approached Mila with tears in their eyes. "Thank you," they said softly. "I've been struggling with my gender identity for so long, and I've felt so alone. Hearing your story, it gives me hope." Mila felt her own eyes welling up. She pulled the young person into a gentle hug. "You are not alone," she said firmly, "and you have so much to look forward to. Your journey is just beginning." As they left the community center that night, Mila felt a profound sense of purpose. She'd set out to share her story, hoping to help others. But in doing so, she'd also helped herself. She felt more confident, more secure in her identity than ever before. "So," Barbara said as they walked to the car. "Same time next month?" Mila laughed, linking her arm through Barbara's. "You know what? I think I'd like that." In the weeks that followed, Mila's life took on a new rhythm. Her mornings still started with runs with Barbara, but her evenings were often filled with community events and support group meetings. Mila found herself thriving in this new role, drawing strength from the connections she was making and the lives she was touching. One balmy evening, as Mila was preparing for another support group meeting, her phone buzzed with a text from Barbara. "Heads up, princess! There's a cute new member joining tonight. Don't let me catch you swooning at the podium." Mila chuckled, shaking her head at Barbara's playful teasing. She'd grown accustomed to her friend's attempts at matchmaking, but so far, none had panned out. Mila was content focusing on her personal growth and her newfound role in the community. As she arrived at the community center, Mila spotted an unfamiliar face in the crowd. A tall, slender individual with close-cropped dark hair and striking hazel eyes. They wore a flowing, androgynous outfit that somehow managed to be both elegant and casual. Mila felt her heart skip a beat. She silently cursed Barbara for putting the idea in her head. She was here to lead a support group, not to get distracted by attractive strangers. Forcing herself to focus, Mila made her way to the front of the room. As she began the meeting, she couldn't help but notice the newcomer watching her intently, a small smile playing on their lips. After the formal part of the meeting, as people mingled and chatted, the newcomer approached Mila. "That was really inspiring," they said, their voice a rich, melodious tenor. "I'm Alex, by the way. It's my first time here." "Welcome, Alex," Mila replied, hoping her voice didn't betray her sudden nervousness. "I'm glad you found us. How did you hear about the group?" Alex's smile widened. "Actually, I read your blog. When I found out you were involved with this group, I knew I had to check it out." Mila felt a flush creeping up her neck. "Oh, well, I'm flattered. I hope the meeting lived up to your expectations." "It exceeded them," Alex said softly. "Your words, they resonated with me in a way I can't quite explain." There was a moment of charged silence between them, broken only when Barbara appeared at Mila's elbow.
"Well, aren't you going to introduce me to your new friend?"
she asked, her eyes twinkling mischievously. Mila shot her a warning look before making the introductions. As they chatted, Mila couldn't help but notice the easy rapport between Alex and Barbara. There was something about Alex's presence that put everyone at ease. As the meeting wound down and people began to leave, Alex lingered. "I was wondering," they said, a hint of nervousness in their voice. "Would you like to grab a coffee sometime? I'd love to hear more about your experiences." Mila hesitated for a moment. Was this a date, a friendly meetup? She wasn't sure, but she found herself nodding.
"I'd like that,"
she said. "How about Saturday afternoon?" Alex's face lit up. "Saturday sounds perfect. There's a great little cafe just down the street from here. Shall we say 2 p.m.? They exchanged numbers, and Alex left with a small wave. As soon as they were out of earshot, Barbara pounced. "Well, well, well," she said, grinning from ear to ear. "Looks like someone made quite an impression." Mila rolled her eyes, but couldn't suppress her own smile. "It's just coffee, Barbara. Don't get any ideas." But as she drove home that night, Mila couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement in her stomach. It had been a long time since she'd felt this way about anyone. The prospect of Saturday's coffee date, if that's what it was, filled her with both anticipation and nervousness. As she got ready for bed, Mila found herself wondering what Alex's story was. Were they a crossdresser like her, transgender, non-binary? She realized it didn't really matter. What mattered was the connection she'd felt, the ease of their interaction. Lying in bed, Mila's mind raced with possibilities. She tried to temper her expectations. After all, Alex might just be looking for a mentor or a friend. But a small part of her couldn't help but hope for something more. As she drifted off to sleep, Mila's last thoughts were of Alex's warm smile and the promise of Saturday afternoon. The next few days passed in a blur of anticipation. Mila found herself checking her phone more often than usual, half hoping to see a message from Alex. But aside from a brief text confirming their meetup, her phone remained frustratingly silent. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Mila woke early, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She went for her usual run with Barbara, who didn't miss the opportunity to tease her mercilessly about her hot date. "It's not a date," Mila insisted for what felt like the 100th time. "We're just getting coffee," Barbara snorted. "Honey, I've been around the block a few times. Trust me, that was not a let's just be friends invitation." As they cooled down after their run, Barbara's tone turned more serious. "Just be careful, okay? I know you're excited, but remember to protect your heart. You're in a vulnerable position, being so new to all this." Mila nodded, touched by her friend's concern. "I will. Thanks, Barbara, for everything." Back at home, Mila spent an inordinate amount of time choosing her outfit. She wanted to look nice, but not like she was trying too hard. After much deliberation, she settled on a casual floral sundress paired with comfortable sandals. She applied her makeup with care, aiming for a natural, fresh-faced look. As 2 p.m. approached, Mila found herself pacing nervously in front of the cafe. She arrived early, not wanting to keep Alex waiting, but now she was regretting her punctuality as her nerves threatened to get the better of her. Just as she was considering ducking into the cafe to wait, she spotted Alex walking down the street. They were dressed in fitted jeans and a flowing blouse, their short hair artfully tousled. Mila felt her breath catch in her throat. Alex's face lit up as they spotted Mila. "Hey there," they said, their voice warm. "I hope you haven't been waiting long?" Mila shook her head, suddenly feeling tongue-tied. "No, not at all. Shall we go in?" They entered the cafe, finding a cozy corner table. As they settled in with their drinks, a latte for Mila, a chai tea for Alex, an awkward silence fell between them. "So," they both said simultaneously, then laughed, breaking the tension. "You go first," Alex said, gesturing for Mila to speak. Mila took a deep breath. "I have to admit, I'm a little nervous," she confessed. I haven't really done this before. Whatever this is. Alex's expression softened. Me neither, they admitted. I guess we're both new to this. But that's okay, right? We can figure it out together. Mila felt herself relax a little at Alex's words. Together, she repeated, liking the sound of it. So, tell me about yourself. What brought you to the support group? And just like that, the conversation began to flow. Alex spoke about their journey of self-discovery, their struggles with gender identity, and their decision to embrace a non-binary identity. Mila found herself opening up in turn, sharing stories she'd never told anyone besides Barbara. As the afternoon wore on, their coffee cups long since emptied, Mila was surprised to find how comfortable she felt with Alex. There was an ease to their interaction, a sense of mutual understanding that she'd never experienced before. You know, Alex said, a hint of shyness in their voice, I have to confess something. I didn't just come to the support group because of your blog. I saw you running one morning with your friend. You looked so happy, so comfortable in your own skin. I wanted to know your secret. Mila felt a blush creeping up her cheeks. There's no secret, she said softly. Just a lot of support from amazing friends and the courage to be true to myself. Alex reached across the table, their hand hovering just above Mila's. Do you think, could I be one of those amazing friends? Mila's heart raced as she looked into Alex's eyes. She saw hope there, and something more. Slowly, deliberately, she turned her hand palm up, letting Alex's fingers intertwine with hers. I'd like that, she said softly. I'd like that very much. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.